Dr. Ann. Welcome back. How are you this evening?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. I really have appreciated all of your knowledge for all of our viewers and watching all of our different videos. As a therapist and psychologist coming to the table on a really important and sometimes under discussed need and benefit for people affected by cancer, I would love to hear your perspective and some tips on I know I might need a therapist, but how do I find one? How do I find the right one? How do I know therapy just doesn't suck or it's great just because of someone else's experience? Can you give us some guidance on where to start and maybe how to continue finding a good therapist to help us?
Sure. So lots of people are going to ask, a physician, their friends, someone that they trust. And hopefully you'll get at least one name that way and maybe several. And that's a great starting point. Lots of folks do need to consider, having someone who's in network with their insurance because therapy can be an investment. And so, making that fit with the insurance coverage that you have can be important too. But beyond those kind of initial steps, fundamentally what you're looking for when you're starting therapy is someone that you feel like you can form a relationship with, because there is an immense amount of research about therapy and therapy outcomes. I mean, we're social scientists. We like to study everything, including ourselves. And in all of that research, if you boil it down over and over and over, more important than the orientation of a therapist or the tools that they bring to the table or their age or their gender or anything else is that the relationship with the therapist feel safe and connected. So that safe, connected relationship, that's the foundation for everything else that happens in therapy. Because when therapy works, you're talking about some pretty vulnerable, big things. When therapy works, sometimes your therapist is pushing you to do stuff that's kind of hard. And in order for those things to happen, those really important pieces to happen, it has to be a relationship that you feel safe enough to make those disclosures, to accept that feedback or those challenges. So I encourage people to absolutely take those initial referrals, check your insurance, but then also do some shopping. Use one of the listings of psychologists, like many mental health professionals use the Psychology Today directory. That one's kind of fun because right now, at least, they've really pushed us to go ahead and do like a 15-second video clip. Also, it's really hard to say anything meaningful other than your name in 15 seconds. Took me half an hour to get my 15-second clip. But it does give you something other than a still picture to get a sense of what it might be like to sit with a person. Even with the video clips, I still encourage people to call. And I would say call a handful of therapists, maybe even as many as 3 to 5. Hopefully, all of us will call you back. As I mentioned in an earlier video, it's a really busy time right now. So be a little bit patient, give people, like when I'm working, if somebody calls me at noon, I may not finish my workday until 8 p.m. And between noon and 8, I'm not looking at my voice or listening to voicemail or looking at email. I'm face to face with my clients. So we are not as speedy at responding as someone who's doing a job where they get to work with a computer all day. So be patient. But once you get somebody on the phone, ask them a little bit about how they work, tell them a little bit about what you're going through, and just pay attention to how you feel. Does this feel like somebody you want to talk more with? Do you feel like, I could be comfortable with them? And if you're getting that impression, then I would say, go ahead and set up an appointment. When somebody new comes into my office, I tell them that our first 1 to 4 sessions even are kind of a therapy audition. They're all about making sure that I'm the right fit for that person. Because if I'm not, I want them to get to the right fit. You know, unfortunately, therapy is not necessarily something most people do lots and lots of. And so if you have one really bad therapy experience, the chances are that when you talk about therapy for the rest of your life, you're going to say that's useless or terrible, or, I don't want people to say that. I want people to trust my profession. And so it's really important to me that folks get to the right person, even if that's not me. So I do, it doesn't happen a ton that I need to do that, but I refer folks to somebody that I think is going to work better for them, because that's the most important piece.
I think that's not only phenomenal advice, it gives us a lot of permission that even though if you don't feel that connection right away, that this is this place to really listen to your intuition, and really follow how you are feeling. And I know sometimes you talk to somebody, you may not feel a connection, even just like in a friend circle, and you shouldn't be their friend. I mean, so I think that's really phenomenal advice. The psychologytoday.com, is that right, for that website?
Yeah. I mean, or you can just type in Psychology Today directory.
Okay.
And
that's a great resource. I always tell people it can be a little overwhelming. So it's much better to just look at a resource like that and start, or talk to your oncologist or maybe your circle in your clinic for resources, because sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed, it's really hard to take action, but that this is a definitely important action. Dr. Ann, any last words of advice for our viewers?
So I think the last thing I would say is a lot of people put off going to therapy until they are really feeling completely swamped, overwhelmed, desperate, because they're trying really hard to be tough and get it done on their own. And my wish for them would be that they let themselves access those resources earlier, and to recognize that it actually is a really courageous, strong thing to do to get the help and support that you need. It's tough. It's tough to say, it's time for me to get help. It's been tough every time I have needed to go to therapy, and it feels great once you do. So I would wish for people to give themselves that opportunity before the crisis, or after. If you didn't do it before, there's still time, but sooner is great.
Today's the day. Carpe diem. All right. Thank you, Dr. Ann, so much for sharing your knowledge and just your energy and passion with us. Really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thank you.
You too, Simi.